What happened in Atlanta?
Well, it appears there was a fire with a key component in the electrical supply system, so it wasn't really an airline problem so much as the airport problem, which shut down everybody.
So is there a risk of this happening again? Is there a risk of this happening at more airports?
Well, I think there's a risk in terms of what is the infrastructure like and what are those systems set up to do. You really have to separate what's going on at the airport with what the airlines themselves are doing, which they are huge IT corporations themselves.
So talk to us about the infrastructure of these airports and how something like this could happen.
Well, I think in this case we're talking about not so simple, but a simple issue of the electricity goes out and nobody can operate and move planes. What we've seen in the past, though, and it's happened to Delta in Atlanta last year, they had a multi-day problem where their data center went out and they were forced to build a new one and spend a huge amount of money and put that in a northern suburb. So just last week, the CEO said that can't happen again to us because of the way we've set up our IT operation. But then there were storms in April, which also hit Atlanta, and that caused a 3-day problem. So we've seen a recurring series where airline technology has really been the weak fault, and in response, there's been a huge amount of investment made in that area, so that you've got places like Delta and Southwest, which also had a problem. They have both spent just hundreds of millions of dollars to just really get the reliability, and the redundancy in that system. Because when they go down, I mean, you're talking about more people than they've had in the past, more people flying, planes that are more crowded than they've ever been with historic load factors. So an airline cannot really just get back up and running as quickly as it used to because of all the people. So for them, that means they really need to make sure this technology is as robust as possible.
How many people were impacted by this?
Well, there were quite a few people, because we're talking about more than 1,200 flights yesterday, 400 today, and then Southwest had a number as well. Atlanta, when you're talking about Delta, Atlanta is really the key hub in that airline. It's the busiest airport in the world, but it's also the busiest Delta hub, and they just put a lot of airplanes through there every single day. So, I mean, we're talking about a massive impact to an airline that, other carriers, it may not be quite as severe.
Now, it's hard not to jump to the worst case scenario, but is this the kind of vulnerability or weakness that somebody could exploit to perpetrate an attack?
Well, probably, in the sense that if you take out the electric supply or the power grid, then you're talking about all kinds of systems that can potentially be affected by that. What works at an airline, because they have their own backup power systems, and what is tied to the infrastructure. I think that's a complicated question, but when you're talking about the ability to shut down all the power, you're going to have a lot of problems no matter where you are.